All righty then. Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the 10K Project. We are the largest community of investors who gather to help fund Black-owned businesses, both startups and hyper-growth businesses. The minimum investment is $100. And every Tuesday, we have something called a Bet on Black Pitch, where we invite a Black entrepreneur to come present their investment opportunity to us. And then each individual person gets to hear the presentation, they get to ask the founder questions. And if you as an individual likes what you hear of that presentation, you are able to invest in that company. So all of our investments are done through Regulation CF, which stands for crowdfunding. And that is governed by the Securities and Exchange Commission and FINRA. So there is government oversight with regards to the type of investments that we are doing. But today is not about the Bet on Black pitches necessarily, even though if you want to become a member of the 10K Project, come to the10kproject.com. Today is all about the infrastructure bill that was signed a couple of weeks ago. And I have a specialist here, Mr. Michael Burke, who is a friend of mine, and he specifically helps construction companies, especially minority-owned construction companies, get access to the contracts that are available and also maximize your profitability. So I asked and cajoled Michael to come to the 10K Project in order to discuss this all important topic with us. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So everybody, if you are in YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, please put your city and state in the chat, and also thumbs up the video because you know it helps the algorithm, and share the stream with a friend or two. That is our request for today. Oops. Alrighty then. So, and I am getting in here. I see hello from Georgia. I see Inkster, Michigan in here. I see Dominica in here. Hello, everybody. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up in YouTube. I'm also going to be able to see your questions in YouTube and in the Facebook group as well, and on Twitter. So you all, please don't forget to put your city and state in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from and all of that good stuff. And don't forget again to give us a like as well, just so we can get those algorithms moving in the right direction. Okay, so here's what we're going to do this evening. I am going to read just snippets of a couple of articles for you to lay the groundwork with regards to the $1.2 trillion, what those funds are allocated for, when can we expect to see some of those funds released. And most of you may not know this, the release of these funds is going to be a multi-year thing. This is not just a 1 year, all of a sudden 1.2 trillion hits the street. So we're going to read a couple of articles that kind of lays the foundation for that. And then we're going to ask Michael, okay, if I have a construction company, how do I actually position myself to win some of these contracts? How do I maximize my profitability? And then if you have I'm going to call it construction adjacent or construction, service, for example, let's say you are an accountant and you're able to help some of these construction companies, or you do marketing and you're able to help them. If you have those kind of ancillary services, then we're also going to ask Michael about that as well, how you can work with those construction companies in your area to make sure that they are able to get access to these funds, and everybody can eat. That's one of my famous sayings. So, okay, Michael, are you ready?
I'm ready, waiting on you.
Righty then. So I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to start off with a Wall Street Journal article that I read a while ago, and it did a good job of breaking down what's in this infrastructure bill. So this was actually written on the day that the bill was signed into law. So they said it's roughly $1 trillion, which includes about 550 billion above projected federal spending on roads, bridges, expanded broadband access, and more. So most people may not know this with the broadband access. There's something called 5G out there. There are a lot of Asian countries that are already on the ball with regards to setting this up. And because of that, it makes those countries a lot more competitive when it comes to the global marketplace. And the US is a little bit behind. So we are now putting a lot of money into that infrastructure so that we can keep up with the rest of the developed world. So what's in the bill? It includes $110 billion for roads, bridges, and major projects, as well as $39 billion to modernize and make public transit more accessible to the disabled and the elderly. Significant chunks of that money will go to major city transit systems like New York City based on federal funding formulas. The measure also includes a $66 billion investment in rail maintenance, modernization, and expansion, most of which will go to Amtrak. So for those of you who live in the Northeast, that money is going to be here. The legislation provides $11 billion in funding for highway and pedestrian safety programs. A total of $7.5 billion will go to implementing a network of electric vehicle chargers, and another $7.5 billion will be used for zero emission or low emission buses and ferries. Ports and airports will be boosted with $42 billion in new spending. So again, the roadways, the ports, the airports. So basically, see the shining sea, there's going to be money placed into infrastructure. The bill includes $50 billion to bolster the country's infrastructure generally against climate change and cyber attacks. So for those of you in tech, this is a great opportunity for you. Another $55 billion will go towards clean drinking water, and $65 billion will go towards broadband infrastructure and development. The measure invests $21 billion in removing pollution from soil and groundwater, job creation in energy communities, and a focus on economic environmental justice. So people, if you're in, for example, any kind of recruiting or job training, that sentence there about job creation in energy communities, you may want to take a closer look at that. The legislation will include $73 billion to update and expand the power grid. So I think that's all that I had there. And then there was this really good Box article that I just want to share with people as well. States have the power to make or break the infrastructure law. Why is that? Because the money is not spent, most of it is not spent federally. Instead, what happens is it's distributed to the states, and the states get to decide how that money is distributed for projects. So in the coming months and years, federal agencies will distribute billions of dollars for everything from bridge repairs to public transit expansion to bike paths. Most of this money will go directly to state governments, which will have significant discretion over which projects they would like to fund. The state officials who oversee most civilian infrastructure projects will soon face tough decisions about which communities will get this money. Because the bill doesn't include enough funding to cover the entirety of the country's infrastructure needs, states and other regional entities will have to decide which roads get repaired, which lead pipes get replaced, and which bridges get restored. A process that has in the past left low-income communities and communities of color with poor access to adequate infrastructure. So if you all think the midterms don't count, y'all should read that paragraph again, because they will. I'm not telling you vote Democrat or Republican. I'm just saying that these are the people who are going to be making these decisions for you. So far, the Department of Transportation has estimated that states could receive funding in as soon as 6 months. So it's about 5 months now. This timing, though, will vary significantly depending on the spending program that they have. So with that, I want to bring Michael up officially now that we've laid the groundwork. Hi, Michael. You don't forget to unmute yourself.
Nope, I'm unmuted. I'm here.
Okay, so why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you know so much about construction?
So, hello, everybody. Nice to be here. Excuse me, my name is Michael Burke. I've been working in the construction space for since 2002, working on large infrastructure projects, public-private partnerships in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area. So everything from National Harbor, a multi-billion-dollar development, to the ICC, which was I guess an 18-mile highway, even the Dulles toll road expansion. So multiple large infrastructure projects. And my role has been basically to support minority and small businesses in relation to those contracts. A, providing fair access to the opportunities that those contracts or that those entities put out. B, getting contractors ready to be able to bid and perform on those contracts. And I've been doing that since that time. I'm currently working on a $300 million environmental project called the Clean Water Partnership, where we have not only a minority business goal and program of 40%, we also have a mentor protege program that I've been managing for 6 years. Basically, we've done 40 small businesses in the program, and about 20 of those businesses have achieved about $20 million, $26 million in contracting to date. So we basically brought the small businesses in, positioned them to learn how to bid, positioned them to learn how to put the work in the ground, and then they bid the work. So it's a competitive bid process, but those firms have actually won. At least 50% of those firms have bid work, and all the firms that have bid the work out of those 50% have actually won a contract. So it is a competitive bidding process. So that's kind of been my involvement in this infrastructure world and in construction.
And what I love about you is you actually, help people navigate the process of setting up their companies properly, bidding, and also afterwards making sure that they achieve as much profitability as possible, and I think the work that you're doing is so important for contractors, because I have spoken with a lot of contractors who really do have a tough time breaking into the government space. So I think that's important. Okay, so talk to us. Let's say that somebody already has a company, they've been in business for several years, but they've never done any government work before. They've only done commercial work, and private work. What are some of your suggestions for somebody like that who wants to break into working with the government?
Well, I think the articles that you read were a great framework for minority businesses to understand where's the money going. And I think that's the first key. Is it going to the state? And from the state, is it going to get to the counties and to the cities and the jurisdictions that the businesses that we're talking to are actually a part of? So to me, the first thing you can do is continue to track the money and figure out where it's going. And I mean, be specific. So if you're working at Amtrak and you have access to Amtrak, then get yourself registered with Amtrak, meet the contracting officers or the procurement folks at Amtrak, and then try to figure out where, with those contracting and procurement officers, where do they think the money is going? What kind of projects have they set up? Do they have a forecast right now that they have? And will they use some of those projects that are in the forecast? Or will they be bidding new projects? I mean, it's all about relationship and being ready and prepared. And part of being ready and prepared is make sure you get registered with the entities that you want to pursue the work with, whether that's a county government, a city government, even the state government. Are there certifications that they're going to require? MBE, county-based business. What kind of certifications are there? What's the process for getting certified? Do you need to get certified? Obviously, in a county like the county that I'm in, which is Prince George's County, there are minority business set-asides, or 40% of the business has to be with minority firms or small businesses or county-based businesses on large contracts. Now, that doesn't mean that the other 60% has to go to those firms, but there's also another 60% that any firm that's qualified can bid on. So basically get your firm ready, get registered with the county. Don't wait for the money to hit and then try to get registered, right? Get registered now. You have 5 or 6 months and maybe more before that money is going to actually get down to your jurisdiction. So do the basic stuff now, the basic blocking and tackling. The other thing I would say is, and what we say to all firms is, look, be a good business first and foremost. If you have good customer references, if you have great past performance, if you have financials that are good, if you have a line of credit, if your bonding is adequate, all of those things help create access to the opportunities that you're going to be looking for.
Yeah, so I know, for example, a lot of people will say, put together your capability statement, for example, excuse me, your capability statement, put together your
Right.
past projects. And a lot of people will say they want to see like similar projects of a similar size that you've done, in the past. Like, talk to us a little bit more about the actual, references and documentation and things like that that people may want to start pulling together, especially because it's December 1st. And a lot of companies, a lot of people try to slow down during the holiday season. I feel like it's a great time for you to spend December kind of pulling all of this stuff together so that in January, you're really ready to go when people get back in the office, right?
Yes, I think, for all businesses, you have to be proactive, and especially businesses that are small minority companies or small businesses in general. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So you have to be proactive, and you have to be able to understand what are the parameters under which this entity is going to contract, right? So let's say you only have $500,000 in bonding and the entity is putting out $5 million packages. Well, that doesn't help you, right? So what do you have to do? One of the opportunities is maybe you have to partner with another firm that does have 5 million in bonding. And because you've got good past performance, the carve out that you will want from that firm is the part that you do well and that you have the past performance on and that your capability statement relates to, and you go in there as a partner. Obviously, if you have time to now encourage those entities to do smaller packages, something that we've been working on forever, to try to get the packages sized for the marketplace in which they're in. So you don't have people coming from other jurisdictions to do all the work that's coming to the local community because the packages are too large. You have a $10 million package when most of your firms are capable of doing $1 million worth of work. So the small businesses can't bond it, they can't finance it, pay the contractors on time and have a faster payment program. So when this money comes to those states and to the jurisdictions, hopefully the entities will put some kind of payment program in place so that you can pay the businesses. Because there's lots of reasons that people keep small businesses from being able to participate by not necessarily making it a small business program. We have a set aside project where we're going to set aside 40%, but then we're going to pay you in 90 days or 120 days. Well,
Doesn't work.
That's almost a contradiction to what you're trying to do for small business, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think from a business perspective, you just have to get ready, and you should always be getting ready, right? And always trying to increase your competency in your lines of business, increase your relationships. The biggest challenge for small businesses, the owner typically is the everything person, and they don't have a chance because they're working on the work. They win the work and now they're working on the work, right? And so they can't continue to build their business. We always recommend that small businesses, quickly as you can, for the owner to get up and out of the business so that they can grow the business versus, for instance, in construction, a lot of our guys are tradesmen. So they start out as say a bricklayer, and then 4 years later, they're still laying brick, right? So how big a contract can you get if you're the person and the only one that can do that trade the way you want it done, and you haven't trained somebody else to replace yourself so that you can now move up and go out and meet more general contractors who you can get sub work from, working, go after the government contracts where you can get larger contracts, annual contracts that give you a better revenue stream and a better cash flow. So there's a lot of things we can do as small businesses. And we've been saying this for a long time, and people still, I shouldn't say people, some companies still don't really get it, which is why we have a lot of the supportive services set up that you mentioned earlier. So that when we meet a business, if it looks like that business needs a better back office, better accounting systems, a better CPA, they need to meet the right bonding entity. Not all bonding entities work with small businesses, right? So we have all those things in place so that we can refer businesses to another business that understands who they are and what they do, and then can help them immediately. So there is work and opportunity for those supporting businesses that support construction companies, do an assessment, see what that company needs, talk lines of credit. Well, lines of credit and bonding are based on almost a similar thing. They're based on your credit worthiness, your taxes, and things of that nature. So get that stuff in order so that when you go to apply for a bond, understand what they're going to look at. What are they looking for when they're looking at you? Really important. Don't guess. Get a CPA, get an accounting firm, get somebody that you can work with that can help you understand, well, what are they going to look for, so that when you put your package together, it passes the smell test and you go to the next step right away, which is how much can you bond, or how big a line of credit can I get, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so you said a lot there, but I know from tech companies, Black-owned tech companies, for example, one of the issues that they have is the presentation of their documents and their ability to answer the financial questions when an investor wants to put in like major money into their business. And I kind of hear from you as well that when you go for bonding, for example, you need to have your package in place and it look in such a way that underwriter, or I don't know who the correct term within bonding, but I'll just say
That's
underwriter,
right.
will
Yeah.
say, yeah, this is an easy yes. And, let me know if you feel like I articulated what you said properly. And then also let me know some of the other struggles that we as Black contractors seem to have when it comes to actually getting our foot in the door and getting these contracts.
Well, I think, the struggles we all know the struggles. We're all minority businesses ourselves. My company is a minority company. So we all know the challenges and the biases that are out there for contracting and small business. So I always say, try not to give them, if the checklist is 10, try not to give them 8 things that they can check off, right? Maybe only give them 1 or 2. So what is that? Professionalism, past performance of your work, size of your projects that you've seen, that you've shown growth. Maybe it's the kind of employees that you have, the kind of culture of the company. I mean, it's the little things that make a difference in the company. And most of the times it comes down to relationships on some level. If you're putting in a bid and you've not met the procurement officer, that's fine. You got to have the best price then, right? But you're still going to have to pass a responsibility test that demonstrates that your company is capable of doing the work. So I always say, pick your lane and do well in your lane, and then have the capacity to grow, right? So that you can convince somebody that while you may be at $1 million, you have the capacity to get to 3 million, because maybe you get a letter from your bank that says, we're willing to fund these people up to another level. Maybe you get a letter from the bonding company that says, if given the right project and the right situation and the right circumstances, their bonding is now at 2 million, we would be willing to bond 4 to 6 million if these things are in place. So I think it's a matter of maybe having a mentor that helps you, that's a bigger company, that's been where you're trying to go. A small board of advisors that can help, consultants can help. There are a lot of organizations and entities that work with small businesses. I think as owners, we have to be able to listen and be willing to listen to what's needed. And some of those audits and things like that, it's just a path to tell you what you need to do. It shouldn't be punitive from your perspective, right? If an auditor comes in and says, We're going to look at your financials because we want to get you ready for your the bonding agent. Then listen to what they tell you, fix it. And now when you present your package, it'll be ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, presentation really is key, you know. So I wrote down here about personal credit as well. Many of you know I'm a business plan writer, and I talk to a lot of business owners who want to go to the bank and get access to credit, to more credit, but they have credit issues and they're credit challenged. And I also work with some alternative lenders, but they want you to have good credit as well. I don't know how bonding companies work specifically, Michael, if they look at your personal credit too, but I think that this is an important conversation for us to have because if you have great credit, like one of the best things I suggest to entrepreneurs is try as best as you can to hold on to that really great credit because you're able to make, you know, strategic moves when opportunities like this arise. Talk to us a little bit about that as well, and what you've seen with regards to personal credit and, you know, personal financial statements too.
I think you've said it. I mean, I think most of the credit-worthy functions that you're going to go through are going to require you to have decent credit. The better your credit, the better access you're going to have to the bonding or the line of credit, whatever it's going to be, given everything else is in line as well. So certainly, and when you think about it, for most lines of credit, you're signing off on it anyway, right? You're going to maybe even have to sign off your house, or maybe you and your spouse are going to have to sign. So there's going to be additional signings that typically take place for lines of credit. And from a credit worthiness perspective, it starts with your financial capability and your credit rating. So yeah, that's extremely important. And that's a lot of challenges that folks have. That's one. And then taxes, and making sure that your taxes are up to date, or you're on a payment plan, or whatever the nature of your situation is, that at least there's a resolution to it that's already been determined, that you can then talk to the underwriter and go to the next stage if you can. So certainly everything you're telling people about business plans and the credit is probably, it's the same things that we've seen.
Yeah.
I'm not a banker, I'm not a financial person. So again, I'm looking at it from what the small businesses are telling me, what our CPAs and our accountants are telling us, and obviously what I've been through in my own world.
Right.
So
right.
yes, yeah.
The other two things I will say is within your taxes, like prove that you've actually, if you can, made a profit. I've talked to a lot of bankers and a lot of entrepreneurs, and they'll show, you know, last 6 years they had massive losses because they don't want to pay taxes. But then the bank is like, well, then we can't loan any money to you. You know, we can't give you a line of credit because you're not showing that your business is profitable. So a lot of times we think in the short term versus the long term for things like this. So, you know, the other thing is my mother's a bookkeeper, and I cannot tell you how many entrepreneurs will go years and years without filing taxes. I know on the federal level, you like that's a no-no. Like you you can't get contracts if you are behind in at least filing your taxes and having something worked out. I don't know on the state level how that works, Michael. I don't know if you know that, but all of these things, you know, they do come back to bite you at the end of the day. And I want to thank everyone in YouTube and Twitter. I think our Facebook is a little wonky right now, but I want to make sure everybody, please give us a thumbs up so that the YouTube algorithm will distill its favor on us, and also share the stream with not only people you know who are in construction, people who are going to be looking for jobs. We're going to talk to Michael about that. If your sons, if your daughters are looking to get into the trades, now's a great time. Make sure you share this because we are going to talk about that with regards to the labor shortage. And Michael, I do want you to also right now give your information if people want to get kind of any kind of consulting from you with regards to this as well,
Sure.
if they have some questions to ask.
My company is Quest2. It's QUEST, the number 2, quest2consulting.com. And my email is michael@quest2consulting.com.
One more time
Oh,
with the email, just make sure everybody has it.
email is michael@quest, QUEST, 2, consulting.com. And if you need a phone number, it's 301-956-6310.
Okay, so if you didn't get that, everybody, just go back in YouTube and write that down. So you were about to say something else before we jump into the next topic?
Not sure what it was, so let's keep moving.
I kind of cut you off there. Okay, so let's talk about prime contractors, because one of the complaints we often hear from our Black contractors, and I'm sure minority contractors have this as an issue as well, is that it's very difficult to establish relationships with prime contractors. Or, if I do establish a relationship with them, they give me the worst part of the job to do that beats up my equipment and is low profits and, things like that. I've heard a few concerns from people who are, own different types of trades and construction companies that want to have access to this, but they have to go under a prime contractor. Would you mind talking a little bit more about that from your perspective and how you help people navigate some of the concerns that they may have?
Yeah, I think those concerns are legit for firms. I've heard those same stories. I've seen those things happen where a small minority contractor gets, a piece of work that just because they have to have a goal and have to meet a goal, so they put the minority firm, I'm going to say, over to the right or over to the left, right? Not always giving them the appropriate chance. I think you have to be an advocate for yourself. I think you have to find mentors or relationships that can help you with those contractors. I mean, one of the biggest things that we do is advocacy for minority firms with general contractors, prime contractors, et cetera. I learned this business from a good friend of mine who, civil engineer, who was in the construction business. When we first started our project at National Harbor, the first thing he said was, let's do an outreach to all the minority firms we can, and let's bring them in and talk to them. We did that because we wanted to understand what the minority firms could really do. What can the small businesses really do? What's their real core competency? So that firms couldn't say they can't do that work, or we couldn't find any that do miscellaneous metals, or we couldn't find any that do earthwork. We wanted to debunk that whole, you can't find anybody or they're not good enough, by having as much data as we could from the firms themselves so that we could advocate for them. So the other thing I would say is, if you can find an advocate, right, that prime contractor trust, that would help the prime contractor give the other firm a bigger shot than they thought they were going to give them, then that's another necessary evil. So one of the things that we always do in our program is to make sure we understand the contractors that we're working with. Where does the owner come from? Most of our small businesses, the owners are competent contractor. They came from so it might be, I'm a master electrician. I decided to start my company. So, they know how to do electrical work because they're a master electrician. Now they're learning how to run a company. And there's a difference between being a master electrician and learning how to run a company. So sometimes an advocate can help bridge the gap between where the owner is, where the owner's trying to be, and helping the prime contractor understand that this firm really can do the work. It comes back to all the things that you say about what's your CAPE statement, what's your past performance. Can you have 3 references, call that prime contractor and say, no, we've done this work. Let me give you 3 references. Can you find a similar project? Is there another reference that you can use where the prime contractor knows the firm that's going to give the reference? So that's the work, that's the non-construction work that we have to do as small businesses and minority firms. Yes, we have to do extra, unfortunately. I think we always have had to do extra. I don't know if that's ever going to change, right? That sometimes we have to do extra. But I would say, don't give up, keep pressing, understand that that's part of the givens are that you may get the smallest contracts. I know some minority firms who started with the worst work, and now they don't do that work anymore because they're so big, they never have to start there, but that's where they started. And sometimes when you get those small, ugly projects, do the best you can, knock it out the park. So that prime contractor says, hey, we gave them the crap work, but they killed it. Let's give them something different. So I think, and maybe you have to do 5 of those before you get your first real contract. I don't know, but I don't think it's different from probably each of us and what we've had to do to build our own businesses or build our careers in corporate America. Sometimes we have to press on, look past that. Don't let that hold us back, is what I'm trying to say. Don't let you getting those small contracts because someone else got that same small contract and now they're a bigger company. And let's focus on what we can do versus what we can't do. We can live in the bias if we want to, right? We can complain, we can moan, we can say that's how they treat us, or we can figure out how to press on, get some contracts from somebody else and overcome that because now you're at the same size as that prime contractor. That's one way to solve it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, the 10K project community, we are definitely people who understand that, yes, we have a couple of additional hurdles, but we, are on the top of our game, and we are ones who are just like, we're just going to knock it out the park no matter what. So let's talk about some of the jobs and uh, opportunities for people who want to get into the trades, whether it's a young person who's 18 years old, or whether it's someone who's a little bit more seasoned. They see this as an opportunity where jobs are going to be created. What are some of your thoughts with regards to how they, especially with the labor shortage? I don't know if experience still counts, or if somebody with no experience can get an opportunity, but talk to us a little bit about that as well.
I can only talk about it from the way I see it, from what's
Okay.
happening, from my experience in the marketplace right now.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, this labor is a big challenge in construction right now, at least in what we're seeing, because I guess of the pandemic, maybe the labor shortage. This is work in the cold. This is work in the winter. This is work. It's not always pleasant, right? And if you look at it from the labor perspective, maybe you're digging a hole, maybe you're, until you work your way up from that labor perspective. So certainly there are jobs out there. One of my clients has had 30 job openings posted on their website for the last year.
Oh, wow.
Yes, looking for laborers, looking for superintendents and that kind of work. I think because there's a shortage now, the competition is for those people that are really good. Everybody's trying to get the same person. So it's almost like the housing market where the price for those people is higher than it was. I don't think there's enough marketing going on about what the opportunities are in the construction industry, where you can start out as a laborer and then you can become an operator and make $25, $35, $40 an hour doing that kind of work. And as there's a shortage, there's going to be more opportunities to learn the trades, become a tradesman, a skilled trade person, and grow your company or grow your business or grow your personal net worth from that perspective. So I think construction field, and I'm not in it, I'm, what do you call it? Parallel to it or ancillary to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's I think it's a great place to learn a trade and to gain a skill set that you can be accomplished and make over $100,000 a year doing the work. So I think it's a great trade. I think right now there's a lot of jobs out there. If you look on the marketplace right now for construction jobs, there's plenty.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that's going to last, but certainly it's a great trade and a great field to be in right now.
I agree. I think that right now is a great time for people to make a move, period. Whether you're 18 years old, whether you're 25, whether you're 40, I'm going to be starting up the podcast again, the Black Money Daily podcast again. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is, look, it's like me, I'm 46 years old. I'm gonna be 52 anyway, I might as well like set my life up so when I'm 52, it's like how I want it to be. Like we're not, for the most of us, for most of us are not too old to like use these opportunities in order to shift direction in our lives. So if you're 30 and you've always wanted to get your, plumbing license, then do it. I can't recommend it enough. Then for you to just say, hey, you know what? The Christmas gift I'm giving to myself is the gift of like finally following my dreams. So
Yeah, I mean, I think a
that's the name of my podcast.
tradesman. I mean, I learned, I put myself through school being a painter. My uncles were painters and we worked with them since we were 10 years old, started as a gopher and then worked our way up. So I can paint and wallpaper. And I always know that I can fall back on something if I weren't doing my consulting business. So having an understanding of just having done that work and, painting in school and painting in the summer times and, being able to wallpaper and that kind of thing, it's a skill set. So you always have something to fall back on. And, I love the trades. I think it's definitely, and I think there's not as many people as there were in the, back when going through the trade. So technology is not going to solve it all. We're always going to need some labor.
That is true. That is true. Cabot is saying diesel mechanic, crane tech, electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, all true. The diesel mechanic thing, I think there's like 66,000 that are needed. The last I checked, it was an
Wow.
article just before the pandemic, but yeah, like there's so much opportunity out here. It's amazing.
I think
So
the other good thing, Cherie, is that you can learn some of this online now through YouTube
Mhm.
videos and through online certifications and trainings and that kind of thing. Something else that's really, so many people are getting technology certs online and things like that. So it's a great time to enhance your career, enhance your skill set, and enhance your earning potential by having another trade or another certification that you can get that will help you increase your wealth, which is really
absolutely.
important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the other podcasts that's forthcoming, everybody, that I'm going to talk about is the power of like being an apprentice. So when I started writing business plans 11 years ago, I actually spent a year and worked underneath a gentleman who had 30 years of experience writing business plans. And like I got to do everything from sitting in sales meetings with him to seeing his process of writing the business plans to like reviewing with the clients and things like that. I fortunately within the trades that you do like have that journeyman
Yeah.
mentality. But even if you're just like painting, and I won't say just painting, but being able to say to somebody, hey, you know what? Let me apprentice under you for a year and just learn the business from A to Z. For me, I think that is one of the best things that a lot of people can do as well. Really learn from somebody. So Cavett is also saying it will be a long time before robots will take labor positions, but programming and engineers are also great careers. Yeah. I say
Absolutely.
healthcare, even though there are robot nurses now, like you still will need like real live nurses. Um, the trades, sales people, that's another big thing. I have a friend who just got a job at Salesforce. So congratulations to Audrey. And she's doing technology sales and then tech period. So, those are four big industries that I think people should pay attention to. You were going to say something else, Michael, before my last question for you?
Nope. I'm going to ask your last question.
Okay, so we also promised people to talk about those ancillary services. I wrote down three here: accountants. They're going to be
Yes.
these construction companies that need to have their financials up to date. So, and we're entering tax season next
Hmm.
month. So, if you want to be an accountant, like now's a great time. QuickBooks, for example, they have certifications that they offer to teach you how to do bookkeeping. So you don't necessarily need to be a CPA. You can learn how to be a bookkeeper. So I'll, that's for people who want to do accounting. Marketing was another ancillary service that I thought of. And then proposal writers as well. Sometimes, yeah, it's like it's lowest price, but sometimes there may be some writing that needs to
Mhm.
take place with these bids and these contracts. I didn't know if there were other services that you could think of that these construction companies are going to need as they are looking for these opportunities, maybe a business development person. I'll throw it
Yeah.
to you. What are your thoughts?
Well, construction companies are no different from other companies in terms of what they need to grow as a business or to scale.
Mhm,
So all the items that you talked about, plus marketing,
mhm,
excuse me, they all need websites. Social media can be important to them now. Business development and lead generation. How do you track your leads? Excuse me. Most companies have to estimate and do bidding, right? There's a whole process for making sure that you have a large enough pipeline as a construction company to continue your work and to grow your business. So that whole business development side of the house is really important. And for a small business, usually the owner starts out as the business development person. And but how do they scale that, right? How do they grow that from I'm the owner now doing the selling to now I have people in house who are tracking bids, following leads, and that kind of thing. Everything that most businesses need in back office is also needed for a construction company. Human resources, big area. Onboarding, how do you onboard? Safety is huge in construction, so you have to have and safety personnel, or at least a safety understanding, which can come from human resources or other places. So I think, yeah, back office is pretty much really important for construction, and so ancillary businesses to that are going to be really important. Businesses need certifications. Do you have someone that's keeping up all your certifications? Is that can be administrative task, or it could be someone that you have that has a business development role, and they also make sure that your company maintains its appropriate certifications and licenses. Some of the things that make a construction company unique are unique lines of business that they have a certain license to do, different from other companies. So if you get a specialization in a certain area, you talked about Amtrak. We have one of our landscape companies that's certified by Amtrak to do the clearing and grubbing of all the tracks up and down the East Coast. Specialty skills, specialty equipment. But because they have that certification, if Amtrak were to put out a bid for that work, they are one of the firms that can bid that work. And they're a minority firm and they're certified. So they now have, A, we have the license to do this kind of work, B, we're minority, and C, we are certified. So they have increased their opportunity to win that work based on having the appropriate certifications. So there's plenty of what I call back office opportunities to support the firms.
Yeah, there's so much opportunity in this country right now that I just say, pick something and say, I'm going to focus on it. And, even 12 months later, a year from now, you could be a whole different person in a whole different tax bracket if you're positioned properly. So, with that, Michael, I want to give you final words. Also, make sure everyone knows how to contact you again. So, if you would give your contact information and any final words that you have for the family.
Well, I guess my final words are, we started out with the infrastructure bill and the Wall Street Journal article. So follow the money. If you're in one of those segments, whether it's climate control, whether it's the Amtrak, whether it's roads, infrastructure, bridges, get positioned, get with your county, your city, your states, figure out where those contracts are coming and get yourself positioned to bid on those contracts. As a lot of dollars, we want to make sure that you get some of those dollars. So make sure you do that. To reach me, you can reach me at Michael at Quest, Quest, the number 2, consulting.com. And my company is www.quest2consulting.com. And Cherie, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, everybody, before you leave, don't forget thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, so that we can get in the algorithms. Also, don't forget to share this with your family, friends, anybody who is looking to participate in the profits from this infrastructure bill. Michael, thank you so much for agreeing to do this for our community. And don't be
Absolutely.
a stranger. We hope that we can have you back as more of this money is starting to come into the system, just to give everybody a refresher of some of the things they should be doing. So
Anytime. And Sheree, I'll be in touch with you if something changes or I hear something, I'll let you know so you can put this
perfect.
on your future podcast as well. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Okay, everybody,
All
good
right.
night.